All right. We should now be good with that. So about a year ago, we officially launched KCWorks, which is the revitalized repository of Knowledge Commons. My colleague Bonnie is going to talk a little bit more about that process. KCWorks has been generously supported by the National Science Foundation and the National Endowment of the Humanities, and allows users around the world to share their knowledge openly and without borders. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is the fact that we have over 36,000 uploads to KCWorks that can be accessed by anybody without the sort of barriers of a lot of repositories. Today, we're going to be showing you some of those features. I'm sure some of you have used KCWorks before and know a little bit about how it works. And some of you may also be new and will hopefully come out of this webinar with more information on what you can do with it and how you can share your resources through our system. Please, as we're going, feel free to use the chat to share any questions or comments. My colleagues and I will be monitoring it throughout the webinar to answer any questions you have. And we should also have some time at the end for any more questions if you think of them as we are going. So the one thing I did want to start with is just a brief overview of what is Knowledge Commons and what it is and what are the features. We are a nonprofit community governed network that is supporting open education and research. We are kcommons.org or also hcommons.org. Prior to being Knowledge Commons, our name was Humanities Commons. And so a lot of our URLs, they are redirects from hcommons.org to kcommons.org. But if you're trying to kind of navigate through the network and you still see hcommons, that is because we changed names about a year ago into being Knowledge Commons, as we've offered more programs and offerings for institutions and groups that are beyond just the humanities. We are hosted by a small team of researchers, humanists, and developers at Michigan State University. That is where we are officially housed, but while MSU is our institutional home, our team is spread across the globe. My colleagues Bonnie and I are in the Detroit metropolitan area in Michigan. Ian, who is here with us, he is located in the Toronto area. And then we also have colleagues that are also in other places in Michigan, as well as far off as the UK and in Greece. So we really are an international team. We have been financially supported over the years through grant funding and contributions by our member organizations. And I'm now going to list all of them. I think I got all of them on my list, but those organizations include the Modern Language Association, Humanities, Arts, Science, and Technology Alliance and Collaboratory, which is better known as Haystack, the Association of University Presses, the Art Research Librarians of North America, the Society of Architectural Historians, James Madison University, the University of Oregon, and then our newest member organization that we just announced last week, Utrecht University in the Netherlands. So we have a really awesome, great group of orgs that we work with, also, as you can see, located around the globe. We will have more information at the end of this webinar on how your institution can get involved if you are interested in supporting our network. The features of Knowledge Commons are pretty wide-ranging, and we like to think of them as being an ecosystem of tools that can be used for publication, collaboration, and collaboration. I like collaboration, though, as a word. See, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, but collaboration and also just professionalization. Profiles are the main thing that happens when you create an account. Anybody around the web can create a profile on Knowledge Commons, and as you begin to do more things on our system, then they will show up on your profile. And then you can also customize it to your own interests and needs based on what you want to have there. On our network, you can host WordPress websites, and those are used by our users to share their project work, share portfolios, can be used to also be integrated with groups in order to share and sort of build that WordPress-based website. All of the features that I'm listing today are free to you as users, so anybody can create a website and share it out. And then we also have groups, and groups are a smaller space that can be used in order to collaborate on discussions, share resources. Sometimes committee groups are used in order to share committee resources, but more or less a smaller level of collaboration and resource sharing. We also have a Mastodon server known as hcommons.social, where if you're looking for an alternative space online in order to have that sort of social media realm in order to connect and collaborate with other researchers, you can use as well. And then the final option that's listed here is KCWorks, which is our repository. And as you know, the sort of crown jewel that we will be talking about today as part of this webinar. So now with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Bonnie to talk more about KCWorks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bonnie Russell. I am the product manager for Knowledge Commons. I've been on the project since May 2020, and I'm also the resident librarian on the team. Um, really, in thinking about the next generation repository, when I came on board, our repository was built on Fedora. It used a bespoke subject heading, which I'll get into subject headings in a minute. Derived from the Modern Language Association. Knowledge Commons actually started at the Modern Language Association back in 2012. The core repository was launched in 2016. So by 2022, we were really looking at some different platforms to really enhance our functionality. One of the things that we really did was look at what people wanted. And a big thing was being able to version a work so that you are actually able to workshop those articles, share them with people, and then create updated versions, multiple files. So you have a paper, but you also have a small data set. You can now deposit those together. You can also deposit if you've got a podcast or a video file, you can also deposit the transcript with that. The creation of collections has enabled open access journals to use our repository and to have all of their articles collected into one collection that they can then send to others, and really laying the groundwork for this idea that a repository isn't just for preservation, but can actually be used for dissemination. Next slide.
Sorry, Bonnie, technical difficulties. I hit one wrong button and it throws me out. Okay. There we go.
Yeah, I've done that before. So one of the things that I wanted to draw attention to is just how much functionality we've gotten in moving to the platform Invenio RDM. Invenio RDM was created at CERN, which is the Large Hadron Collider organization. So we did mint DOIs, we did feed to aggregators so that things are discoverable. But now we have the multiple files in one deposit, the ability to edit metadata. If you have an error or an updated description, or if there are related works that you want to attach to this, you can do so. You can create new versions. We have had a number of folks that have recognized that they have an error in a paper, or they have a new version with a prologue written by someone. You can do that. And collections administrators, and this is where we get into the open access journals and to others who want to create a body of work, you can actually accept or reject. So if someone submits to your collection and you're the administrator, you can actually say, yes, I would like to include this, or no, this really isn't appropriate for our collection. And finally, and this one has the typo again, sorry, we had an 100 meg limit on deposits. It's now 500 gigabytes, not megabytes, gigabytes. Next slide. So what can you add to KCWorks? Pretty much anything that has to do with knowledge, dissemination, everything from book chapters to learning materials to syllabi. We've got podcasts that are now preserving in the repository, bibliographies, data sets, pretty much anything you can think of as a scholar or as someone who works in the knowledge community, you can deposit in KCWorks. Next slide. So why would you upload? Really, this particular repository is not just for preservation. This can actually be a home for your work where you can continue to work on that body of work, augment it, and then share it with others. One of the things that we've seen as well is that there are projects out there that are having a hard time finding a place to put that work. They maybe are community-based projects, local history projects, things that don't have sort of institutional connections. That work can be deposited here. So it is a great home for projects that are sort of institutional and community based, as well as just, we have fiction works, we have even the ability to submit art. Um, there's increased discoverability. So when things get fed to all of the aggregators and search engines, they'll be found. And one of the things that people have a hard time with, especially in the scholarly publishing landscape, is that findability. A DOI, so a digital object identifier, creates a citable record. So people can actually cite your work and know that that's a persistent link that will continue to point to it. One of the things, though, is that you must own the copyright or have permission from the copyright holder to upload. And you will be asked to add a license, which I'll get into in a second, as part of the upload process. Next slide. So findability. This is where my librarian hat comes on. Metadata is data about data. So it describes the object that you are depositing. That includes the author and contributors' names. We want people to get credit, and we have an expanded list of roles so that if someone was a reviewer, actually, I think we're adding reviewer, if someone did illustration or translation. So we tried to become a little bit more broad in the types of credit that people can get. A descriptive title. Clear description or abstract. Obviously, a paper would have an abstract. A piece of art might have a description. And then something called subjects and keywords. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with keywords. Subjects are driven by what's called a taxonomy. And so those are a fixed set of items that you can use to describe your work, but those are very important for things like aggregators and also for libraries. Metadata for works is aggregated by a number of different entities on the web, so you do have an expanded findability. Next slide. And pardon me, I'm still getting over a cold. Subject headings. So this is something that most people don't ever have to think about, but when you're depositing your own work to a repository, it's important to think about. We use a taxonomy called the FAST taxonomy, which is Faceted Application of Subject Terminology. This is created by the Library of Congress. It is based on the Library of Congress subject headings. And this allows people to have sort of known subjects with which to search. So if somebody is searching for digital humanities, that subject comes up, they will find your work. One thing that we noticed with FAST is that there was a lack of good terms for the LGBTQIA community. And so we have augmented that taxonomy with another one called Homosaurus. We're currently looking for taxonomies for indigenous place names and other things that are not covered in FAST. So we do have the ability to have up to 6 taxonomies for subjects. That's something that we do have documentation about on our support site if you have more questions about it. For affiliations, we are using the Research Organization Registry, or ROR, so that you don't have to just type in. When people type in their affiliations, they might type MSU instead of Michigan State University, or OSU instead of Oregon State University. This allows people to make sure that their affiliation is correct and consistent so that you can find work by other people in your institution. And in version 1, we're currently in, Ian can correct me, but I think we're in version 0.5. Will include a searchable list from the Open Funder Registry, so you'll be able to acknowledge the funding that you received for a particular work if there is any. We do have a metadata guide, as I said, on the support site. Next slide. Licensing. Now this gets tricky. Oh, thank you, Ian. I forgot about that. Um, Licensing is tricky. This is a way for you to assert your rights on the work that you do. We support any number of open licenses, including all of the Creative Commons licenses and open licenses for things like software. We can't advise you what licenses to use, but we do have some recommended licenses in the upload form and also a guide that will help you kind of think through what that means. Next slide. Collections. I know Ian will probably talk a little bit about this, but collections really are a curated set of deposits. They can be used in a number of different ways. There are open access journals on the site that use them for their journal. We've got collections for things like digital humanities or public humanities. We've got folks from STEM that have created the STEM Ed Plus, which are science educators, created a collection. These are not at this point collections that you can kind of create from other people's work, but you can offer the ability for people to submit to that collection. Group admins, again, can accept or reject submissions. This is important for the OA journals that we have. They can actually work with an author. So instead of just accepting or rejecting, they can reply to the author and say, hey, I really like this paper, but I really wish you would have fleshed out this particular point, and then add it to a journal collection. And you can build a collection for things like projects or overlay journals. Next slide. Now, this is where I put my publishing hat on. I spent 9 years in scholarly publishing. I worked for a university press. And one of the things that made me decide to come over to the open access side is that publishing can be very difficult. Traditional publishers may not support interactive or multimodal projects. We have a lot of folks now that are doing dissertations that are entirely electronic. We had someone at MSU create a video game as their dissertation. Those obviously are very difficult for a traditional publisher to publish. New niche or sensitive topics may find resistance from publishers who are unwilling to take the risk on it. We see this a lot right now with the current climate around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We find that with sort of very small topics that aren't researched by a lot of people, but are very important. And so that is one way open access publishing or just simply putting things into a repository can get your work seen. Early career researchers may be overlooked for more established names, or if their work contradicts a senior scholar may find it difficult to publish. I have seen this firsthand. It does happen. And independent scholars. So we have a lot of independent scholars on the platform. They're not affiliated with an institution, and that can be a problem when they try to publish in that they don't have that machinery behind them. Next slide. One of the things then that Knowledge Commons does is it allows you to publish and disseminate your own work. We have an increasing number of multimodal projects, OA journals, and open educational resources. Sites can be used as a launching pad for an interactive project or an OER. Collections can be used to create that rudimentary editorial workflow. Groups can be organized and used by editors to really kind of give that platform and that foundation for a project. And you can mint DOIs and disseminate your work and be that much more findable. I think that's it. Nope, publish all types of scholarship. So one of the things that I alluded to is that we have a number of folks publishing podcasts. We've got a couple of folks that have published things like VR or AR. We do accept almost any file type in the repository. And we do have that 500 gig limit so that if you have a video game that you want to disseminate, if you have an AR or VR file, you can do that. One of the things that we have really seen is that uptick in that kind of non-traditional, non-linear storytelling or publishing. And that's something that we want to support. Thanks, everybody.
So next, I'm going to hand over the mic to Ian. He's going to talk a little bit more about the repository, do a little tour, and talk about some exciting new features. So go ahead and take us away, Ian.
All right, thank you, Larissa and Bonnie. And let me just share my screen. And uh, for some reason, I have Teams running in the background, and Teams and Zoom don't like running at the same time. So th that should uh, make my screen share work a little bit better. Uh, Here we are. All right. Can everyone see the KCWorks front page there? Yes? Excellent. Good. Okay. My name is Ian Scott, and just a little bit about me. I am lead developer on KCWorks, Knowledge Commons Works. I've been with the project for 2.5 years now. Before that, I spent 20 years as a religious studies professor in Canadian universities. So I've been involved in open access publishing for about 20 years. I've been a humanities researcher, and one of the things that has really attracted me about this project is being able to try to build infrastructure that would have helped me in my work as an academic if it had existed earlier, and also the kind of infrastructure that solves the problems that other academics run into on a regular basis. So this is the front page of KCWorks, the repository, and it has some standard pieces you can search right from the front page. Click a button right away to add a work. It has featured collections at the front, a list of recent works, some standard things. But let me just give you a brief sense of the main features and how they work. If I want to search for something in the repository, I can search either from the front page search bar or by clicking on the search button, and that brings me to the global search interface for the whole repository. You can restrict the display right off the bat by a number of different facets, and you can also do some fairly advanced searching if you want to get into using specific search terms, searching specific metadata fields, that sort of thing. Um, if I click through one of the results here, and this is just the one that happened to be, let me try this one of the most recent uploads today. This is what we call a detail page looks like on KCWorks. And as Bonnie and Larissa said, one of our basic aims is to blur the line between repositories and publication platforms. And so the idea is that KCWorks not just be a place where research goes to die or where things go to be preserved in cold storage, but that this is a place where people put things to be discovered and a place where people put things to be consumed. That this would be a place where people are comfortable coming and actually reading people's research, viewing people's materials, accessing them as the primary place to look for them. Partly because we want it to be a place that provides all of the information you need about a work, a place where they are discoverable, but also a place that's aesthetically enjoyable to be, and that provides an aesthetically enjoyable, usable reading experience. So we provide detail pages with quite a lot of the metadata about a work, a list of files, and you can have a number of different files attached to a single work for download, but also a reader interface that provides you a nice usable view of whatever the materials are that you're looking at. And this PDF viewer for PDF files expands to be a full page viewer and has all of the sort of standard PDF viewer capabilities that people expect, being able to look through pages, look through the outline of the PDF, all of that kind of thing. So this becomes not just the place where things are stored again, but the place where people come to read it, to consume it, to experience it. And moving forward, that becomes even more important as we'll continue to be expanding our group's features and things like that, so that KC becomes even more an ecosystem where people are sharing research, making connections among researchers at the same time. So that's a little bit about the detail page. And you can see right on the detail page that if you want to submit a work that you own and control to a collection, you can submit it right here. And that opens up a window to search for collections that you might want to submit it to. And then the curators of that collection can evaluate your submission, get back to you. You can have a back and forth dialogue if you want, and they can accept it. If it's accepted for the collection, then that collection's banner appears in the sidebar here as well, so that people can see which collections your work is a part of. And as Bonnie mentioned, you can also edit your own metadata. You can create a new version of your own work. You can also create share links so that particularly if you have a work that you have set to be restricted access, and you can restrict access to just yourself or your collection members. You can also create share links then so that you can identify individuals who can have access to those restricted materials. Again, not because we want to encourage people to put closed access stuff in the repository, but because this is a working place for research in all of the stages of its life cycle. And so people upload drafts, keep them as drafts until they're ready to create a formal first version. And then even when they create a first version, they may still want to keep it restricted for a little while to show it to reviewers, show it to other researchers until they get feedback. Then they can make it fully public. Collections are discovered through this collections page here. You can search. We have at this point a little over 900 different collections for everything from just somebody's personal research project to big institutional collections and e-journals and everything in between. You can browse or search through different kinds of collections here, and then when you click through, each collection has its own landing page where there's a dedicated search interface just for that collection. If there are publicly viewable members for the collection, you can see who those members are. And since I have administrative permission here, I can also see how admins to the collection can invite other people to join the curatorial team. There's a tab to view the requests that people have sent, so submissions to the collection. And there's also a button to contribute, and if you're an admin, some other settings. This interface actually is going to be overhauled and expanded in the next few months. That's one of our current development projects that's just beginning. And so one of the things that I'll talk about in a minute that's going to be added to this is an analytics dashboard that's specific to each collection, so that you'll be able to see statistics and time series data about the contents of your collection and about the usage rates of your collection. The third button up here is the upload form if you want to add a new work. And we've tried to streamline this as much as possible. showing and hiding fields depending on what resource type you choose. And there are a lot of different resource types to select, not just the ones that are in the top button here. I can decide I want to upload a musical recording as an audio file, and then all of the form adapts to show you fields that are relevant to that type. Um, and you have the opportunity. Oh, it's telling me I need to supply a title, of course, which I won't bother with at the moment. But you have an opportunity in the process to submit your work to a collection right when you upload it. That means you are submitting it for the collection curators to consider whether they want it to be published in their collection or not. That means it'll sit in their curatorial inbox for a while, and won't be published until they approve it. The other alternative to that is just to upload it yourself, add all of your metadata, add your files on the Files tab, choose a license, and then click Publish. And then it's published immediately. And at a second stage, you can, from the Works detail page, submit it for consideration to a collection. And in that case, you don't have to wait for approval before it's viewable by the world and discoverable by the world. But the thing that we're most excited about right now is on another tab here. Did everyone see the switch of tabs there so you can see the stats dashboard? Okay. This is the brand new statistics dashboard that we've just developed, and it's just in the final stages of rolling out. This is the view for the dashboard for the repository as a whole. And right now it's showing test data. This is not actual real data because the final rollout on our production site isn't finished. But this gives you a sense of what you'll see in the very immediate future for the dashboard for KCWorks as a whole that will give us analytics about the whole repository. But also it's the same dashboard that will appear in one tab on each person's, on each collection owner's collection. So this is the same kind of analytics that if you create a collection, you'll be able to have for that collection specifically. We have a tab to view the content with a number of different sections. Um, that's the content is the cumulative total that is in the collection or the repository at any point in time. And then we have a tab for addition rates. So how many works have been added in different ways and of different types in each time period through time. And the same thing with traffic to your site. We have a page for the cumulative total amounts, volume of traffic, viewers, downloads, uploads at each given point of time. And then we have a tab that displays the rate of new contributions at each point in time. One of the things that we realized very early on when we were putting this together is that people often want to know not just how many works are in my collection, but how many works of different types are in my collection. And so we have a few different tabs on the main charts here. So I can look at how many records are in a collection or in the repository. I can see how many different files because there can be more than one file per record. I can see the volume of data that collection includes, and I can also see how many uploaders have contributed. I can also use the filter here to break that down based on a number of different kinds of metadata. So if I want to see not just how many records are in the repository, but what are the top kinds of works that have been contributed, and how many of each of those are there? So I can select that as a breakdown, and now I can see a stacked bar chart of all of the different top resource types that people have contributed, in this case, to the collection as a whole. I can also select by language. So what are the top languages that have been contributed? Or periodicals. What are the top periodicals that people have published things in that are part of this collection? And then we have more focused uh, widgets down below that can show you information about these different kinds of breakdowns. So this is a dedicated widget showing you the top work types that have been contributed to this collection. And I can view this either as a pie chart, I can view it as a bar chart, or if I prefer, I can use it as a list. And this is particularly important because it makes all of this information accessible. So people who have visual impairments, people who have other kind of accessibility issues, we're trying to make this as usable as possible for the whole range of users and accessibility tools. You can also then click through from these widgets to a search for the particular content type or subdivision of works that you're interested in. So if I see, well, 15% of this collection is tagged as social sciences. That's one of the blanket subjects. Then I can click through from this and see a search of all of the resources. Well, and because this is on the development server, it's going very slowly. There we go. Uh, this show will show you in a moment uh, the search results. I'm not sure why the development server is doing this. Okay, here we go. So this shows you all of the actual works that were tagged with that subject. Um, So, hopefully, this dashboard will provide a lot of really rich information for people, not just about our repository as a whole, but also about your individual collections. And this can be useful for institutional collection owners. This can be useful for publication collection owners. And some people will be more interested in looking at the information about what people are contributing, especially if it's a big collection. Other people will be more interested in seeing that information about usage rates, and even things like the map of where your visitors are coming from. So maybe the most exciting thing for me about this is that these dashboards will in future be configurable by collection owners. So collection owners will be able to decide which widgets to decide on to display on their collection dashboard. And as this rolls out and people start using it, we'll be really interested to hear as well what other kinds of widgets would people like to see, because we've got pretty rich data being generated in the background now and stored. And so there's a lot of potential for us to create new widgets that will show the displays that people really want. All right, that's it for me, and I'll hand things back to Larissa and Bonnie.
Thanks, Ian. That was as usual. It's always fun to see the stats dashboard and how much time and effort has gone into making it something that's super cool. So thank you so much for the tour of KCWorks and for the little preview at that. Coming very soon to a KCWorks collection near you. All right, I am going to now go back to the slides, which I think I may have accident. Oh no, they are here. Okay. For a second, I thought I closed the tab, but give give me 1 second to do the switch back. Okay, can everybody now see the slides again?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. All right, so just to wrap things up, I'm sure that now that you've gotten the full overview of KCWorks and Knowledge Commons, you're kind of wondering how can you find out more and stay in touch with us? The first place to start is our monthly newsletter. I think many of those that registered for this webinar heard about it from our newsletter that we send out on a monthly basis. So we promise not to barrage your inbox with emails. If you would like to sign up for that and you are not currently subscribed, if you go to our homepage, there's a big block there that says sign up for the newsletter where you can add in your email address. Our newsletter tends to have updates on the platform, sort of what is happening and from the technical front, as well as community events like this webinar, as well as social media activity and whatnot. So it's the best place really to get up to speed information about what we are up to here on Knowledge Commons. We also are active on social media. I mentioned that we have a Mastodon server at the beginning of this presentation, and so you can go onto that server to our page to subscribe for more updates. As I mentioned, anybody can create an account on that server as well. So if you're looking for a space, you can get involved there. We are also active on LinkedIn and Blue Sky. And so I have here links to our profiles there. As you probably know, you can also, if you have an account, search for our name and subscribe that way. So we tend to be pretty active on those pages, again, with the same sort of content that you see in the newsletter. If you want to find out more and to get more involved in what we are doing. The next thing I want to talk about is a little bit more about how you can get active in our network. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are a nonprofit network that relies on the support of our users and member organizations to keep our vital infrastructure free and open to everybody. So we are lucky to have some amazing partners, but we are in a critical moment in the future in terms of being able to keep offering what we have for our users free and open to everybody. So there are a few different ways that you can get involved. One is that if you as an individual are interested in contributing to our mission, you can make a one-time or a recurring monthly donation on our CrowdPower page. I have a link to that in the slides. So that is the space to go if you would like to just contribute $5 or $10 a month in order to keep us going and to keep us afloat. This is not anything that you have to set up recurring. You can just do a one-time donation if you'd prefer that, but that is the place to go. If you are interested in learning more about a larger term donation or getting involved in our network, you'll want to email us at network@hcommons.org. What we offer is various tiers of membership for organizations and institutions, depending on their size and how much they would like to contribute. And there are various different sort of perks that organizations receive when they contribute more. Those include workshops that can be given virtually or in person, a seat on our governance so that organizations have a say in sort of the future development and get a sneak peek at what's going on. And so if you want to find out more about that, the best way is to email us. Someone from our team will reach out very quickly to tell you a little more and to let you know a bit about what that looks like. So even if you personally are not in a space of being able to contribute or you are not the stakeholder at your organization that makes that decision, consider just letting your potentially department head or someone know that we are here and we are doing important work because we would be happy to talk to them about what we are up to. Lastly, we do also offer something called KCWorks for Institutions, which is an institutional repository alternative. You can learn more about that at join.hcommons.org. One thing that I want to be very clear about with KCWorks for Institutions is that it is not a replacement for the current system that you just saw. That will remain free and open to everyone. KCWorks for Institutions, more or less, is just a space for institutions that want to use our IR as opposed to another for-profit option to be able to have the features that you've seen in a more closed space. However, as I said, we are not planning to sort of paywall off KCWorks. It is completely vital to our mission that is remains open to everyone. This is just sort of a bonus option for institutions that are interested. For that, you can, as I mentioned here, you can go to the website that I've listed, or you can also email us at that network email to find out more information about it. So that is going to wrap up our presentation, and now we have our Q&A section. So what we will do is we'll hang out for maybe about 5 minutes or so, longer if people do have questions, to answer anything that you have. Feel free to drop things into the chat if you would like to ask the questions that way. Or also you can raise your hand and we'll just sort of go down the line if people want to ask things. I'm going to give people a minute to type. I know sometimes when you're on the spot, it's like, oh, I got to get my question in the chat. So, okay, great. So we have a question from Mary Isabel, which is, has anyone added a Pressbooks publication so far? Do they upload the XML file? Bonnie, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, you absolutely could. If you wanted to preserve your Pressbooks publication, you absolutely could upload the XML file. I co-authored an OER with a couple of co-authors in 2022. What we did is we actually created a PDF. And so we uploaded the PDF to KCWorks, attached um, the URL for the actual living internet-based version. There's a number of different ways that you can do that. And we are actually our interim project director, interim director of Mesh Research is currently playing with Pressbooks and looking at how we might actually incorporate that or use that in addition to KCWorks. Do we block? I'll take the next one. Do we block scrapers? So we are doing the best that we can. We have had a number of times where bad bots have taken us down trying to scrape the site. It is like playing whack-a-mole. We're currently looking at a tool and we've got it loaded on our development server to mitigate some of that. And we are looking into an additional tool that would help us manage that. In reality, it is very hard to block all scrapers. They obfuscate, they will figure out your defenses and try to get around them. It's a huge problem. I also have a Zotero collection called AI Controversies that has a number of articles on this. Many libraries and archives have started implementing Cloudflare, which is something that we're looking into, which is basically you have to prove you're human to get onto the site. Others have implemented something called Anubis, which essentially sends scrapers into a labyrinth that they can't get out of. There's a lot of controversy around that tool. And there's no good answer right now. I'm obviously in a lot of conversations with other librarians at other institutions talking about this. But it's a work in progress.
Thanks, Bonnie. So we have another question that I think maybe either you or Ian, and this is about the differences between KCWorks and Zenodo. So I'm going to let one of you guys probably take this one.
I can take that, Bonnie, if you want.
Yeah,
Uh,
that would be great.
I dropped off for a second there because I seem to be having more connection problems. So hopefully I will stay audible here. Um, so we use the same underlying platform that Zenodo does, Invenio RDM, and so a lot of our technology is identical. We have a significantly smaller team. And so it takes us a while to integrate some of the new versions of that platform that come out. So right now we're in the process of just starting the upgrade to Invenio RDM version 13, if that means anything to you. And so some of the features in that version that you'll already see on Zenodo that haven't rolled out yet on our repository. Other things we're building, we contribute back to Invenio RDM, and that shows up in Zenodo eventually as well. So the relationship goes both ways. So the stats dashboard that we're building is going to be contributed back into the platform, and Zenodo will be able to benefit from that. But there are also some basic differences in philosophy between our UX design and Zenodo's UX design. Um, the Zenodo came out of STEM fields with a certain set of priorities. Um, Casey has come out of originally the humanities fields with a slightly different set of priorities. And so you can see that, for example, in our different upload forms. So we built a completely different custom upload form for works, um, intended to make the process of uploading something as manageable and comfortable an experience as possible, but also tailoring that upload form to make it easier to upload a whole variety of different kinds of works. We also expanded the range of work types that could be added and expanded the subject vocabulary in comparison to what Zenodo uses. So there are definitely some differences that go beyond aesthetics, and it partly just is a reflection of the different histories of the two and some differences in our sense of mission. I think Zenodo is still in many ways thinking of themselves as a more traditional repository. We're trying to again blur that boundary between repository and publication platform increasingly. And we're also uh, really concerned about good user experience and continually focusing on that.
Thanks, Ian. That was great. We have another question related to uploading of projects. This is probably one for Bonnie. And the question is, how have people shared database projects? What is the upload type people typically use? I love the idea of keeping a version history of the project as we roll out new versions.
Yeah, I was actually going to type that. So it looks like we have about 120 or so data set deposits that are specifically sort of data sets. I think it largely depends on what it is. Um, you might pick learning material. I mean, it really, I think it would depend on what that database project is. You might choose data set might be the most popular, but that doesn't mean that that's what you have to use. I think if there's a specific question on a specific type that hello@hcommons.org is our support email. And somebody will absolutely get back to you. And we do occasionally go on to have a video call with folks just to kind of get a better sense of what it is that you're trying to do. So we do, we're a small team, but we do try to answer those questions.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. And yeah, just to echo also what she said, we oftentimes we do get emails into our inbox
Mhm.
sometimes when users are saying, "Hey, I have this cool project, trying to figure out
Mhm.
what file type or if this is something that will work in KCWorks." Now that we have such an in larger file size, we don't typically have a lot of limits in terms of, oh, this file is not going to work or you can't upload a zip or whatever. It usually will
Right.
fit. And so feel free to email us at hello.hcommons.org if you have questions about that or anything else pertaining to KCWorks.
Mhm.
We monitor that inbox regularly, so we are happy to answer any questions there. I think now we've answered everything in the chat, and seeing that we only have about 3 minutes left, I think we're going to wrap things up. As I said, you are free to email us at hello@hcommons.org if we missed anything today, or if you just want to send some feedback our way. Thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it. This was great, and glad to get to celebrate Open Access Week with all of you. Have a good rest of your week and weekend, and keep publishing. Keep at it. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody. Thanks for the great questions, too.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.